The last part of this section I want to animate is this circle coming in a kind of a dimensional way. So I'm going to use the 3D tool here. It's right here. It looks like a little sphere with some lines around it. I'm going to click that. Well, first I want to get set up for that, so hold off on that. Click the selection tool. I want this to start right at the end of this animation, the text animation. So I click the keyframe, I let go of it, then I click, hold, and drag, and start about there. And then about frame 22 or 23, I'm going to press F6 just to cap that off or isolate that animation. So right click, create motion tween, and let's go ahead and do that reverse trick again. So I'm going to move my playhead here to frame 21. Click my 3D tool. Zoom in here. So currently this isn't a movie clip. So I can only use the 3D tool with a movie clip, and you can toggle between the two just by changing this little drop down menu here in the properties palette. So I'm just going to go from a graphic to a movie clip. It's original instance. If you reuse this, it would still be a graphic, but in this instance it's a movie clip. And as you can see, I've got my 3D rotation options here. So you can rotate it any way you want. I'm just going to grab this Y and kind of rotate it a little bit just so it looks interesting. Don't forget that we're kind of doing this in reverse. So I just moved to the last, and then I'm just going to right click and reverse those keyframes. That way it kind of goes from that three-dimensional state to the end. And notice how it gets a little fuzzy and then it sharpens up, and that's because I've capped that off. 3D tool tends to it rasterizes the objects, and so it looks a little fuzzy, but then once you're there, if you swap out, it looks sharp again. I also want to tween the alpha of that so it fades in as well. So we're going to go to properties and color effect alpha, change that to 10 or so, back to the end of that 100%. So this is where you should be. Alright, now the animation just keeps looping, and you should be aware that we just need to tell it to stop, and we need to tell it when to stop. So we're just going to add a little action there. So new layer there, and I'm in section home content, so I'm still in that section. And I want it to stop not until the end of the whole sequence here. And then option F9, got my actions palette, and I'm just going to type stop. So if you look, there's a little A there, and that just means it's going to stop. So it should be that for that. Alright, let's take a look at the next section, section 1. So let's go back, section 1. So we've got a line that appears, it draws itself, and then it fills in, and then the content appears. The text, or the headline, eases in, but it kind of bounces. So if you take a look at that, it kind of bounces in. So normally the sections would act almost identical or very similarly, but for the sake of exercise, we're going to make the sections look different. So let's work on this next section. Alright, now we've reached a very common problem in that we're on the main timeline here. I've clicked out of all the movie clips, and now I can't see my sections movie clip because everything in the first one is either off stage or is invisible, so I can't. So it's hard for me to click into that from the main timeline. Often I'll use this outline mode if I go to the bars layer and I just click that little square. Now I can see the title of the first section there and allow me to click into that movie clip. So I'm just going to double click, and now I'm into section 1, and double click again. So now we're ready to begin the next part of that. So the first thing I'm going to do is extend this movie out to about frame 31. Press F5. Now I'm going to work on this header first. So I want that to come in first. And I want that to happen in about 7 frames. So on frame 8 I'm going to press F6 again. And then press Create Motion Tween. And then let's do this backwards again. So I'm going to move this up. Right click. Reverse keyframes. Now it's come in. Now we're going to use an ease or a special ease to have that bounce in. So we're going to use the motion editor for that. So the first thing I want to do is click the tween and then click to the motion editor section. And I'm going to extend the timeline out. And I'm going to increase the frames so I can see all the frames of that animation. There are only 7, so I'm seeing 7 frames here. And you can zoom the selected ones or all of them with these 2. And so what I want to do is add a special ease. So if I go down, sometimes you have to scroll down or toggle some things off. And I'm going to go to ease and choose a new ease called Bounce In. And if you look at that ease, it's going to affect the way that tweens in. So normally tweens just go at the same pace unless you add an ease. This would be a simple slow, which is just gradually going from a certain percentage, a lower percentage, to a higher percentage of change. This bounce, you can see that those changes are pretty dramatic. So we've created that down there. Now we just have to add that to our motion. So if we go to basic motion, we can see that we're affecting the Y. So you apply the ease or the special ease by going to basic motion, clicking that little drop down and saying bounce in. So now that you should be able to see that ease being applied to that tween. So if we play that, you can see it bounces in. So cool way of doing that using the ease.